Thank you both for the time today. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure.
So I got to start, with the question of what is it like being in this wall? Because no other show really has a format like this. I mean, and it is awesome to see. I know how intimidating it must be for the actual bakers.
Yeah, I watched the Wall of Chef version before, so I knew a bit what to expect. I was really excited to when I received a list of chefs to find out a few names that are already quite well known. So that was a bit less intimidating than being with like people you don't know. But that was the fun part about it. Also, like being able to meet other chefs from across Canada. That was really nice.
What about you, Shobna?
For me, I was intimidated because there were some names, because I moved to Canada in my early 20s for pastry school. And in our little TV in Ottawa there, we had a few shows. I don't think cable exists at the time. I can't even remember. But I kind of almost my pastry career, or how it started, kind of grew up with Lynn Crawford and Christine Cushing, and like just kind of watching them on Food Network. And when I found out that they were going to be there, I was like, oh my God, do I look okay? Am I? How do I present myself? What do I say? I say, hello, chef. So that was kind of going through my head, but they were just so incredible. And it was such an honor to be part of that group that I kind of, as a young adult, I kind of looked up to, and then suddenly to be on the stage with them, and then to meet all these people like Patrice and Steph and Tara, and all these like-minded people in one room for the entire time was mind-blowing for me. It was an experience of a lifetime. What a format, as you said, right? To have this group of people to be with and to judge with as well.
Well, I'm curious, compared to Wall of Chefs, what do you think is one of the more, what do both of you think is one of the more challenging things as a pastry chef and coming out with dishes that are either on the spot or obviously the fan favorite, but like, what do you think the hardest part of that is?
Yeah, for sure. Timing is not easy with pastry because
100%.
Yeah, even if you do a cake, then you need to cook for sure. There's a lot of stuff in pastry that need either to be frozen or to set in the fridge. So for sure, like that's one thing that the contestant had to keep in mind to be sure to be able to make a plate of dessert that's ready to be served. So yeah, I think that's the big difference. Like you can easily cook a piece of fish and put the veggies on the plate in like 35 in 1 hour. There's no problem. But doing a dessert in that time is not that easy.
Yeah, and patience, right? Because for baking, you need patience. And how do you, and even baking cookies, sometimes, you're impatient, and as soon as it comes out of the oven, you want to eat it and you burn yourself. But the fact that, and it takes so much more prep. It takes so much, it's more of a mindset, because cooking comes almost a little bit more naturally to people because it's part of survival. Baking is more of a desire. And it's something, I mean, to me, it's also survival. But for most, it's also a desire, and it's kind of thought invoked, right? It's like, oh, I would like to bake a cake. What do I need? The ingredients. What do I have in the pantry? And so patience was a huge one for me.
Yeah, and most
see
people
them go through that process in such a rush. Got my heart skipping a beat.
And most people are not used to improvise in pastry. Like quite often you come home after work, you just open the fridge and you decide what you're going to cook for dinner. But you don't do that often with pastry. You go with a recipe that you already know. So for the first round on they could do their crowd pleaser, but for the next two rounds, they had to improvise with either like mystery ingredients or just trying to follow the theme of a chef. Like so yeah, that's not easy for somebody who's not a professional.
Well, and for me, the other thing watching, all of you up there on the wall, is it difficult to have the right tone? Because obviously it's easy to praise too much. It might even be easy to be hard on them. How do you find that line where you're like, okay, good there, but improve there, or did it come naturally?
Yeah, I think it was quite easy because we're really having lots of fun during the day. So yeah, it wasn't hard to be like smiley and to give them tip like, and this is why I accept to be on that show. Like I would not have done it like if the idea was just like to be kind of Gordon Ramsay and scream on everybody. Like I also teach at pastry school, so for me like it's really important to try to give good tips how to make things better, but also like yeah, it was easy like most of the contestants to find like really good stuff on their plates. Like it wasn't that hard. So yeah, and there were some really really amazing dishes also. So
I feel a lot of us brought a lot of curiosity because we are also constantly learning. Patrice and I were, we're both pastry chefs, both owners. We both have, employees, and we're constantly teaching. And he's actually, he actually teaches in schools as well. So the fact that we are always open to curiosity, we are always open to new techniques. Going, oh, what are they doing? Why have we not tried that? So it's also a humbling experience, but it's also quite eye-opening to actually see them competing under pressure. So for us, it was more kind of like cheerleading. We were kind of rooting for them, going, yeah, you can do it. Like, let's go. My God, like put that in the fridge now. It's gotta go. So that was a little nerve-wracking to watch sometimes because of the clock, because everything was under pressure, under time. And sometimes we work like that, but we don't work like that all the time, right? So yeah, that was fun.
How consistently were you blown away by what was being done? Because obviously some of these things are spur of the moment kind of creations. Oh,
we can't tell you that. Nice try though, Andrew.
Well, yeah. I should say, did you see things that amazed you every episode, I guess?
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed by the level, like, because it's not easy, like we were saying, to improvise in pastry. So most of the time I was trying to say in my mind, how would my staff do the same thing? Would they be able to do really better than that? Like, so that was kind of my level, like to judge the plate, like because yeah, it's not easy. You're in front of camera. You're nervous also. So most of the people, it was their first time on TV. It's pretty impressive. So to be already in front of like 12 judges like that. So yeah, the level was really really nice.
Also, the pressure that they were feeling, because the way it's all set up, we are literally like looking down on this kind of arena, right? So the pressure that they were under, I was in awe with just how composed they were. These are home bakers that put their hands up to be in a competition because of the innate love they have for baking, what they do for their family and friends, and for them to put that to the test, under this immense pressure, I feel. Yes, every episode that we were part of, like I was part of, I was constantly surprised, amazed, and humbled by their skill. And I was like, maybe we can exchange numbers, get your resume if you're in Vancouver, like a stash.
I can tell you, I cook all the time. I love baking, everything. I said this to the Wall of Chefs too. I don't think you could convince me to do a show like this. I do not feel prepared.
The pressure they must have been feeling. Oh my God, I'm just blown away.
Yeah, and I know lots of professional chefs doing savory food that will never do a show like that, because not because you love to cook that you love to do pastry. Like those are two different things. There's not that many people like doing both at a professional level, but yeah, so those were really like courageous people, like going on a show like that.
Competitive pastry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, competitive pastry is obviously now a whole other ballgame.
Well, and the other thing that blew me away is, it's one, and I've seen this across a lot of the shows, Wall of Chefs as well. It's one thing to be able to make the dish well. It's another thing to be able to present it well, and the presentation skills were very impressive too. Did that impress you? How do you think they're learning that?
Yeah, I think like you could see that lots of them like where people were watching a lot of show from Food Network, reading a lots of book. So you could feel they were really passionate about what they were doing, and they were for sure like already impressing like people at home with their desserts for sure. Like it was not the first time they were trying to do plates like that. Like yeah.
No, and also, yeah, being exposed to all these shows, on the Food Network, plus social media and, TikTok. And I think even the last few years when we've all just kind of been forced to be at home a little bit has kind of upped the game of and elevated what we are doing at home. So now instead of like kind of bridging the gap between going to a really nice restaurant where it's plated nicely, now I'm like, okay, I can't go out in the pandemic, so I have to plate this myself. So I think the art of that has kind of seeped into, their minds and their dishes, and having, literally like bridging the gap between something that was professional and for them to aspire to that and to be able to create that and then bring it to the show. That was very impressive. And it was so fun to see their creativity, right? They just kind of went for it. And it was incredible to watch.
I would say it seems like Instagram has certainly pushed people to have a resource to look up designs very easily, or at least looks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And inspired to. Yeah, it's aspirations, right? These are like creative things that you can just you can take and make it your own. So
yeah, you have access to the work of like pastry chef from all over the world. Like this is not something I had like 22 years ago when I was
exactly.
I had to buy lots of books to read all the magazine. Now you just go on Instagram and you can see a picture of like what like any great chef, what he's doing right now. His shop is serving a video of him like doing new creation. So that's amazing. Yeah.
And across the globe. It has globalized, right? So whatever we want here, we can access to whatever they're doing in Norway. That's really kind of made the world much closer and much more accessible to everyone. So then styles are also global. Styles are not just true to like where we are, what we live. Like it's really pushed the reach out to lots of different cuisines and a lot of different influences too. So we definitely saw that on the show. Yeah.
Well, the last thing I want to know is, what do you think that home chefs should learn first when they want to get into pastry? What do you think? I mean, you've already talked about patience and everything else, but what do you think is maybe a key tip in starting out?
Yeah, for sure. Like to master the basic like technique, it's always like the easiest way to go. After that, it's much easier to improvise in pastry when you master, like you really know a bit of also about the chemistry behind like recipe, like how does egg white react when you add sugar? Why do they break? So when you know a bit more about chemistry, and then you can improvise much easier and you can create your own recipe. And if something goes wrong, then you know why. And that's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, what differentiates a lot of home bakers to what we do is solutions, like problem fixing. The reason why, I mean, sometimes we are rushing too and we make mistakes, but the difference is that we know why the mistake occurred and how to fix it most of the time. But I think what is also important is just respecting your ingredients. I think for cooking, it's much more forgiving, I feel, but baking is slightly less forgiving. So things that are out of temperature, when people say room temperature, like on recipes, we really mean it. It really does need to be at room temperature. Using cold eggs will have a different effect on your cake batter. Using
some rooms are colder than others too.
Yes, some rooms are colder than others. And so it's quite important to pay attention to the details. So I feel that's why pastry is a bit more detail oriented that way. Of course, there are methods that you can use to kind of speed up the process and things, but respecting what your ingredients can do for you, like the simple egg and how that can split and make a gazillion different recipes in different forms, with egg whites being a meringue. Or with the meringue, what can you do? You can do mousses, you can do macarons, there's just so much variety. And respecting your ingredients is key for me.
Thank you both so much for the time. I really appreciate it. Pleasure chatting. And yeah, congrats on doing the show. It's such a fun watch.
Yeah, we can't wait.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, us too. I'm like, God, when is it? Good. March 28th is coming up soon.
Awesome. Well, have a great day. Thanks very much, Karen.
Bye.